Hello, today's lesson is 2.6 and it's about dividing decimals. The question is, how can we divide decimal numbers with whole numbers as the divisor? So we're just starting out basically reviewing the different ways that you see division. And this is using the division symbol, right? This is using, I call it long division. And then this would be using a fraction bar, the fraction bar in the middle. You literally say all of these the same way. 12 divided by 6, 12 divided by 6, and 12 divided by 6. So all of these just really mean long division. And sometimes the tricky part with decimals is just to make sure that when you're doing the long division, you put the correct number on the outside. The divisor is on the outside. Okay, so basically same idea. Now we're going to go over the steps for long division. You divide, you multiply, you subtract, and you bring down. So those are the steps that you repeat over and over again. And now this time, because we're dividing with decimals, you're going to divide until you have no remainder left, right? So it's DMSB. Okay, this is the key idea in your textbook. And then I want you to see this, right? That you need to place a decimal point in the quotient above the decimal point in the dividend. So notice wherever the decimal is in the dividend, you just bring it straight up. And then just like when we multiplied, you just, right, divide as you would with whole numbers. You basically pretend the decimal is not there. And then don't forget, at some point you might need to add some of those ghost zeros. We call it annexing zeros. Okay, so let's look at some examples. There's two people that have a bill of $32.18. And if you ask the question about how much each person needs to pay, right, what you're doing is you're trying to divide 32.8 by 2. And so 2 is the divisor. It goes on the outside, and 32.8 is inside the dividend. And I'm going to go ahead and put the decimal up on the quotient, and then I just pretend there are no decimals and do the steps of divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. So 2 goes into 3 one time. 2 times 1 is 2, and then I subtract, and I get a 1, and I bring down the 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 times 2, right? I'm just doing the same steps every time. Now this is where it gets a little tricky. Some people forget to put a 0. When you get to the point where you've brought your number down, if the divisor cannot go into the number that you got when you subtracted or brought down, then you have to put a 0 up on the quotient and you bring down the next number. And I know that 2 goes into 18 9 times. And when I subtract, I have no remainder, which means that this is the end of my division, which is a good thing because money only has 2 places. So each person pays $16.09. Okay, next, this is an on your own. So I want you to try this one and pause the video and see how you do. There's a Halloween dance, and here is the total. And the ASB is going to sell tickets for $3 each. How many tickets will you need to sell to cover the cost of the dance? And the total cost is $435. So if each ticket is $3, you're trying to figure out how many $3 tickets you need to buy, or how many times 3 fits into 435 and 72 cents. So there it is. We could also use estimation to check our answer. So sometimes I round something like this. If I round it to $400, I know that 3 times 125 equals 375. So I'm going to say my estimate is about 375 tickets. Okay, so the first thing I do is I just look at where the decimal is in the dividend, and I put it right above on the quotient, right? The quotient is the answer that you get from a division problem. And then I'm going to use my divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. 3 goes into 4 one time. Oops, boy, that was a mess. Let's go back and back. I subtract, 3 times 1 is 3. I subtract 3 from 4 and I get 1. And then I bring down the 3. 3 goes into 13 4 times. 3 times 4 is 12, so I subtract the 12. I have 1 left over. Bring down the 5. 3 goes into 15 5 times. 3 times 5 is 15, and when I subtract, I get 0. Bring down the 7. Notice I'm not putting any decimals in my work. I'm just ignoring the decimals and pretending it's all whole numbers. There's a 7. 3 goes into 7 2 times, which is 6. I'm running out of space, and now I'm going to bring down the 2. And 3 goes into 12 4 times. And when I subtract 12, I'm running out of room. I have no remainder. So my answer is, this is kind of weird, right? So it looks like I have to sell 145 tickets, which are our estimate. Oops, sorry, our estimate was 325. That was just guessing 3 times what gets me close to 400. So 145, not super close to 125, but I think that makes sense. But now, of course, I need to say to myself, does this make sense? Can I sell a part of a ticket? No, I can't. So to answer that question, to answer the question that's been asked, I need to say that I need to sell 146 tickets. 146 tickets need to be sold, right? Because I need to make this much money to make up the cost. Okay, let's look at another example. Jeffrey is sending 40 text messages in 1 month, and the total cost is $4.80. So how much does each text message cost? And usually what I do is I'm always thinking about money per whatever it is that the question is asking. And so if it says how much each text message costs, I have to think about, which one goes on the outside? It's basically money per text. So it's 480 divided by 40. So we know 40 goes on the outside and 480 is on the inside. So when I set up a problem where I'm dividing money per item, this is money per text, I put the numbers in the same order as the words that I used in my ratio. Okay, so now we've just got our long division. Okay, it's going to be kind of a different one because 40 cannot go into 4. As long as I remember, I take the decimal in the dividend and I put it up on the quotient exactly above it. My division is going to work out okay. So 40 doesn't go into 4, so I put a 0 there, but 40 does go into 48 one time. 1 times 40 is 40, so I'm going to subtract 40. I get 8, and I bring down the 0, and now it goes in 2 times, and already I have no remainder left, so my division is done. So each text message cost, now remember, don't make that mistake that Gary the grocer made. Either I do this, 12 cents per text, or I use the cent symbol, right? 12 cents per text. Okay, so the last example, just basically asking if you're dividing decimals, right? What do you do if there are remainders? And we've already hinted at it, right? That we're going to annex zeros. Sometimes I call them ghost zeros, but you annex zeros until you have no remainder left. So here's an example we're going to do together, and then you have an OYO. So I put the 6.2 in the dividend, I put the decimal up there, and then I start dividing. 4 goes into 6 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. I subtract and I get 2, and I bring down the 2. Let's see, 4 goes into 22 5 times. 4 times 5 is 20. When I subtract, I have 2 left. Now I have to annex a 0 because I need to keep going into smaller place values. And when I bring down the 0, you can see this is the last one that I have to, that I only have to annex 1 0 because 4 goes into 20 evenly 5 times. 4 times 5 is 20, and I have no remainder left. Okay, this is the OYO. Here it is. It's double-digit dividing. You might want to take out your multiplication chart. 3.12. All right, so 16 definitely does not go into 31, so I put a 0 there. And if I could do 16 times 2, it would be 32. So I can see it's only going to go in one time. 1 times 16, and then I subtract. I get 15, and I bring down the 2. And this goes in 9 times. 16 times 9 is 144. I subtract. I get 8, and I have to annex a 0, and I bring down the 0. And 16 does go evenly into 80. 16 times 5 is 80. I have no remainder left, so my answer is 0.195. All right, that's it for today's lesson. Just remember that you divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down, just like you do with whole numbers. Okay, I did just want to show one of the homework problems that asks you which is the better buy, because we haven't really talked about that yet. The better buy is the one that costs less money per ounce. There's many ways to do this problem, but I would start out by taking this 4-ounce bottle, and I'm always comparing the price per ounce. So I do the 8.49 divided by 4. So 4 goes on the outside and 8.49 is on the inside. And then to compare the price for this bottle, it's 10.29 divided by 5. So 5 goes on the outside, 10.29 goes on the inside. Whichever one is cheaper is going to be the one that is the better buy. Okay, good luck on the homework.